Happy Friday, everybody! It's the
Happy
fourth
Friday.
episode of Shut Up, Stan. It's the fourth episode of HeleCloud Talks Cloud. And we have some really cool guests here. This time I've invited all the guests. This is Bozhidar Zhelev and Stan from the Managed Services team, which is the team that I used to lead when I wasn't on maternity leave. And today, as a surprise from everyone from Managed Services who's watching this, I'm wearing the t-shirt they gave me when I delivered my baby and went away. And it says, "Your other babies will be missing you." And these are their heads on top of babies' bodies. And it was so touching. I never went away and I'm still working. So,
really nice.
Really happy to have you guys.
It's very happy to be here.
Yep.
So we have a bunch of different things to talk about today. Bozhidar and Stanislav are both pretending that all they know about is technical stuff, and then they said, "Oh, this one story I don't know how to say anything about except for," and then there came a 2-minute really good analysis of the thing. So well, I'm sure we'll have some fun. Let's start with from my opinion at least, the biggest news of the week. Jeff Bezos is stepping down as CEO of Amazon and is being replaced by Andy Jassy. And Andy Jassy is the now former CEO of AWS. And this represents quite a big change. When I read between the lines from people who are closer to the whole situation, it seems like it was coming for quite a while. Bezos has, of course, been doing his Day One Fund and his Jeff Bezos Earth Fund or whatever it's called, and the space thing that he's doing. And to be honest, if I was Jeff Bezos and I spent the last, 25 years building a company, and I'm the second/first richest person in the world, it's time to go and do something that's a little bit less stressful and a little bit more fun. Interesting news. What do we think about this?
My 2 cents about it is that in a way it was expected, considering, for example, Microsoft's history, since Satya Nadella, I think, was in charge of Azure before becoming CEO. So it's kind of natural. I mean, consider how much the whole cloud business is successful and key for these companies. That if you are a successful CEO of the cloud business for a company, most probably you're going to be the CEO eventually.
Well, it's quite interesting for me, at least, when you look at the ginormous size of the revenue that comes from Amazon, the quote unquote bookshop. They have a super high revenue, but a super low profit. Actually, it's really a small percentage. Whereas AWS used to be run like that. They used to run on like 0.5% of margin, but these days AWS is bringing in quite a good amount of profit. Which is all of us forgetting to turn off instances is generating that profit. So we talked about that last week.
There's other things as well. We'll tell you about Glacier in a minute.
I think it's interesting from a second perspective. We talked about it yesterday a little bit as well, that AWS is a growing significance to Amazon, and it's just a next step on the way, in my opinion at least. We're not there yet, but I think we will end up there. The next step on the way from Amazon being a quote-unquote bookshop selling some spare server capacity to Amazon being a public cloud provider that also sells some books. And that will take a while, but this kind of thing will probably, Andy will probably bring in lots of his experience and knowledge from the last 20 plus years in AWS. So we'll see what the impact of this is, which probably won't be super obvious next week, but we'll see a gradual strategy in the next years to form.
Oh, you know what they say, don't change anything in the first 6 months of landing a new management job. So possibly we'll know in a year.
Well, if you, what I would think would happen if I just look at normal human beings is that Andy now has to worry about all of the Amazon things, but he will bring with him the experience and knowledge from running AWS, which is actually what underpins Amazon in the first place. It'll just get more attention now because he is used to knowing in depth about the capabilities that AWS provides. So I think that's probably what we'll see, and it won't be super obvious, but yeah, we'll see in the next years what happens there. The next topic we have is it's actually one that's been sitting around for a few weeks, but now we have someone who can tell us a bit more about it. The SolarWinds hack. We have quite a nice article that explains a bunch of stuff about SolarWinds hack in detail, and we figured it makes sense to discuss a little bit the story in detail. So
yeah, well, the story is quite simple. They got hacked. The issue here is not that they got hacked, it's that their monitoring system, I mean, their main monitoring software had vulnerabilities that were exploited. So the resolution was to shut down the monitoring software. Imagine the repercussions of that. I mean, you will stop seeing everything on your system. So,
but you have so much free time to work on stuff because you won't get bothered by the noisy alarms. let's be honest.
And if that stuff breaks, you won't know, and it won't bring you revenue. So yeah, at one point we're getting to the point which is more important: not getting hacked or knowing if something breaks. So it's for me it was a little bit of a lose-lose situation, because this is, I don't know, it's like chopping off your own leg and saying I can't walk. It was really strange that this is happening, and the fact that they don't have anything in place for these kinds of situations was really strange. And there was another really interesting thing I read about within the article, actually, for the SolarWinds hack is, even if the patch comes for this vulnerability, should you be paranoid? Probably yes. Which is so I'm using this monitoring, I fixed it. Should I worry? Yes, please do keep it shut down. So what should we do at this point? We don't have anything. We didn't put any other software in place, probably, because we actually wanted to have SolarWinds. And now the situation is really bad. And from what I've read, this actually hurts government companies, really big enterprise companies, because the software was really good. I actually used it. It was good for management, not just monitoring. And it was really easy to use. I'm saying was because I haven't used it for the past year, but I'm sure they've upgraded before the vulnerability patch. So it was
it's to draw an analogy for maybe the less technical people who are watching this. It's the difference between trying to break in 10 different houses, or to break into the key maker's shop and just steal the equipment to make the keys, and now you can walk freely into all of these houses. And effectively, this kind of attack is what happened here at SolarWinds. And I think that people are focusing too much on SolarWinds and not enough on other places where this is basically an eventuality and not maybe this will happen. No, it will definitely happen given enough time and given enough resources. So I think that it's good as an abstraction layer here to think about other places in infrastructure or life in a broader space where this kind of stuff can happen.
Yeah, I actually received the SANS weekly report today, and it was including some new information about the attack. It was saying, quoting, a new report states that the attackers linked to the SolarWinds breach may have exploited other vulnerabilities to gain an initial foothold on victims' networks other than the ones already disclosed in SolarWinds. So they're saying that the attackers are still unpacking the attack, and it's going to hit in more places than originally thought.
Yeah, and I think that's it's only smart, right? Put yourself in the shoes of these groups that are doing carrying out these attacks. Of course, you're thinking about what can I gain as quickly as possible from this that I can hide before they figure out the SolarWinds stuff. If you look at the more sophisticated hacks that are happening these days, you quite often see messages about attackers breaching a network and then silently sitting there doing absolutely nothing until they have gathered enough in-depth information about the infrastructure that they just got access to then do one big blow of damage that has a much higher impact. Some of these ransomware attacks are doing exactly this. They're just sitting around until they've figured out all of the parts of the network, and then in some of the most sophisticated ones, I've seen places where they hacked into a network, sat there for a while, and then did a ransomware crypto attack where they basically encrypted every single server, hard destroyed the backup server, and then said, how about you pay us some money to get your business back? Because that is by now a business destroying event, which is scary as all hell, in my opinion.
Yeah, imagine a government entity having a ransomware within the environment. I mean,
we don't negotiate with terrorists.
Yeah, something like that.
Yep. It's scary stuff. Moving on, we have a nice article on InfoWorld, 11 reasons to hate the cloud, and we have some people with us that like to hate, but do so in a way that shows that they actually secretly like all of it. But I'll let you talk, Bozhidar.
Yeah, my plot twist here is that I'm gonna hate the article, actually. Well, because there aren't actually 11 reasons to hate the cloud in that article. There is only one reason, is that, and to summarize it, is like, okay, we like the cloud, and it's really convenient, but then again, we are surprised by the view in the end. And that's the only situation that I got from that article that troubles the author, I think. So, you should read about how you're getting billed, man. I mean, because there were some arguments that were kind of strange. I mean, it's the author gives an example. Let's say you're running a website on one server, and then suddenly you're extremely popular, and the traffic and the interests and everything scales, so your infrastructure scales to handle that, and at the end you're surprised at the billing. So why are you surprised at the billing? I mean, you are consuming what you're using more. I mean, and the author constantly compares that to having a server that you own in your own data center, and that's more predictable. Yeah, it's more predictable, but how you're gonna scale?
You know what the problem is? The problem is that with the data center, you have a separate team that deals with finances, that does your billing. And in the cloud, you have engineers who all of a sudden have to understand about cost and billing. And the people who understand cost and billing, who have no idea how this works in the cloud. So I think that's a big challenge for using cloud services.
I saw a really funny tweet this morning about it was Corey Quinn about Jeff Bezos leaving. You know how in AWS you pay for network traffic going out and not for network traffic coming in. So they said Amazon can't afford to lose Bezos because they cannot pay for the egress of him leaving.
Yeah. Well, actually, if you if I have to, state my personal opinion of what hate is a strong word, but what I found interesting is it's not that your view is surprising. I find it kind of infuriating that you're getting built for stuff that I think, at least from my personal perspective, should be a no-brainer. And let's say, for example, in as far as I know, in the Google Cloud, your traffic goes internally whenever possible and is encrypted by default, and that's as is. But for Amazon, you have to provision VPC endpoints and do extra stuff and get built for that to have that. So that kind of finding a way to build a customer in these really small details, it's what actually annoys me. But yeah, that's not hating the cloud. I mean, it's
interesting, right? Because when I first started a AWS journey, and this is, I don't know, 2009 probably, you're surprised at the amount of stuff you have to do to an AWS account to properly bring up a web application with a database behind it. You have to worry about all these things that you don't necessarily want to be worrying about: network setup, firewall rules, all of that stuff. And then over time, the best practice became the landing zone, which is one of the things that we put in every project, and it's really helping. But I wish we were in a world where a landing zone was not a necessity, where this stuff would just, scaffolding that comes with an AWS account.
Well, that's a place for some marketing. That's why you need people like HeleCloud, who are specialists in that and can help you configuring. Yeah, but actually, there are pros and cons for that, because you have an extra configuration steps to make, and that's a positive thing, because an option to configure something is additional control to turn off things you don't need. And I think Amazon thought about that some people just want it like next finish kind of stuff, and that's why we have services like Lightsail or the easiest part, where you don't actually configure anything and just click next finish, and you have an instance with an RDS. So yeah, you have that as an option. But
yeah, I think that it's one of the traps of IT, right? When you first talk about a problem, the solution seems really simple, but then when you get down to the details, it turns out that there's a lot of questions that you'll need to answer with assumptions, because nobody can tell you the actual answer, and these assumptions can be better guided if you have experience of doing it wrong previously. But the reality is that a lot of what we do is should I do A or B? I don't know. They're both letters. Let's go with A today and try B tomorrow if A didn't work out very well. And it's one of the things that I personally struggle with sometimes, is when you have to explain that bridge to non-IT people. I talk to a lot of business owners and business people and customers and all of that stuff. And to explain to them that they will come to us and say, hey, we want to move this application to AWS. How much is it going to cost? I don't know. Do you want to do it for $1,000? It's possible, but you'll get a really crappy job. We can do it for $100,000, and you'll be paying for a lot of stuff you don't technically need. But all of these are a possibility. We should probably sit somewhere in the middle. But people think, I want this thing. How much does it cost? Well, it's not that easy.
It was easy in on-premise, yeah.
Easier, yeah, because the costs were hidden, because the feedback cycles were much larger. So then if you indeed ran into scaling things, now you have a problem, because or not even scaling things, in changes, now you have a problem because you're waiting for 3 months for your network routing change to be approved by a cab or something similar. So that speed comes at a cost.
Or Bozh's favorite, changing the storage, or what was it? Changing a drive so you could extend the storage.
Yeah, I used to work as system administrator years ago, where like 60% of the work that I did was just dictating car plate numbers over the phone, so that data center people could let an engineer in to replace a hard drive. I mean, that overhead, that overhead for the convenience to have more precise estimates in your Excel sheets for the cost, I mean, I think cloud is the better solution here.
Absolutely.
Stan wanted to
That
say
is-
something, and we interrupted.
Now, I was thinking for the previous topic about scaling the first time I met the cloud, and I was like, I don't have enough resources. You're saying now, for the on-premise things, we have 3 months, we need 3 months for another network equipment, and here is like, let's scale up, we'll need 5 to 10 minutes and another 5 for it to deploy. I mean, the difference in the timings is
and I think
incomparable.
important that because that time costs a lot of money, but not
Exactly.
money that is that you can see, but it's money for the business, and that is absolutely a game changer in my opinion. And people don't understand that too much. So we have a lot of discussions with customers that say, if I do this on premise, it costs me I don't know, $10,000, and if I do it in the cloud, all of a sudden it costs me $12,000. That's $2,000. That's 20% more expensive. Yes, but also your speed of your business will increase significantly.
Exactly.
And you have happier employees, right, Bojo?
Yeah, yeah.
When was the last time you called AWS to give them a license plate?
Yeah. Yeah, but speaking of network, Stan could probably give an example of what it feels like to work with AWS support on network issues. You can scale a network quickly, but you have so little visibility on it, and you have to jump so many levels of support to get to someone who can get to the level of network knowledge that you need.
Yeah, this is actually a surprise for me that within the cloud I have almost no visibility over the network except on the configuration. I mean, the monitoring for me at the moment is really simple, which is not enough for a network engineer. The status up or status down is just not enough. And every time I need any logs, I need to contact the support, which for me would be a headache. For them is a headache for sure because they need to speak with me.
Well, not speak. We'll send messages to each other like in the old ages. Just send a pigeon, wait for 2 weeks, and all that.
I'm gonna go and move to the next topic, not because I don't want to talk about this topic, but because I want to cover a few more. The next one is actually a topic that doesn't come with a specific article, but it's something we talked about, and there are quite interesting developments going on. So it's CentOS and the things that are happening around CentOS. So to give a super brief prime on this topic, CentOS is the free version of Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and you don't need to pay to use it. CentOS was always the distribution that Red Hat Enterprise Linux was based on, but maintained and supported by a community. And Red Hat recently, Red Hat took over maintenance of CentOS a couple of years ago, and then recently they said, actually, we're not going to be supporting CentOS the way we used to be, which sparked quite a big outcry in the community. And that combined with the fact that IBM bought Red Hat led us to quite an interesting discussion surrounding what this actually means for CentOS, because it used to be the case quite a lot that Red Hat users would downgrade to CentOS, so they didn't want to pay for the support anymore. I've very rarely seen people go from CentOS to Red Hat because they wanted to pay for support. And now, with the future of CentOS not being very clear, the question is, where does that leave CentOS in a cloud world, especially with IBM owning Red Hat? And it's a whole ecosystem move. There's no specific move that will kill everything, but I think there will see a gradual change. I'm keen to hear your opinions on the topic.
Well, basically that whole move was IBM denying users enterprise level operating system for free. I mean, it was essentially, if you want enterprise level stability, you have to pay. That's it. I mean, it was quite convenient before that, because if you want to not pay for support because for some reason you don't need it, you can still use an enterprise level operating system that is stable, that is predictable, that just works. And now you can't. If you want to at some point go for a support level, you can easily upgrade to Red Hat, but now you can't. And I don't know who actually decided that, but in order to position yourself better at the market, to deny people using free operating system like CentOS, I don't think that's going to work out. I mean, the whole idea of the cloud is that you should design for failure, and you should spend in the general term. I mean, there are specific cases where specific applications should work on only one instance and they are critical, and etc. But in the most typical case, you don't care that much about the OS. That's what the world's been doing for the last 10 years. Moving to microservices, moving to Docker images, they're easily replaceable. You don't spend time investigating why a var file system gets filled like for 2 weeks, spending everyone's time. And that's
wow, that brought back memories.
Yeah, and that's why you don't need that level of support in the general case. So that's what was clever with Ubuntu, because I think they're more cloud ready, precisely because of that. They are extensively used in images. You can have a pretty decent OS distribution on your desktop that you can use for development. And then I think for any developer could be a natural switch to just continue using the OS that he already knows from its desktop to build stuff on it. And that's why most of my clients actually use Ubuntu. Why should you use CentOS now? Why should you use it at first place other than preference? For example, I prefer CentOS due to the package manager and everything. I come from an RPM distros background, and I would prefer that. But now with these news, I don't think if your goal was to be well positioned in the cloud, you essentially shot yourself in the foot. I mean, I saw different statistics, by the way, for the last couple of years. One sites or I don't know entities claim that Ubuntu is the clear leader with like 30-something% usage in the cloud, and other site claims the opposite, that CentOS is the clear leader. Either way, the future, I think it's definitely about Ubuntu, because you have an enterprise level system as well, because they offer support. You have a server, you can run it as desktop equally conveniently, and that's it. I mean, the only negative thing that I saw in Ubuntu is that they tend, until recently at least, tend to change underlying core packages, so to speak, quite intensively. For example, with the way the network was managed from 1604 to 1804, they just decided to go with NetPlan, and that's a big change. They experimented with init systems, but once they stabilize the way their init system networking, everything works, so it's more predictable the way Red Hat did it. I think they're going to be a clear winner. CentOS
in a way, it's funny, right? Because the freedom of specific distro that made Red Hat successful in the beginning, which was in a time where people were compiling kernels in production, and Red Hat said, hey, how about we just give you something that works and we'll charge you support for maintaining it? that was a godsend. And then now, 20 years later, we're in a situation where they shot themselves in the foot, and it's super easy for people to move now to a different OS. Like if you have your average a web application or some Java application or whatever it is, it doesn't really care that much about the OS that it's running on, as you said. So it's not as much of an open heart surgery as it was back when we were doing VMware on premise. Then you had to really be much more considerate about things. But now with immutable infrastructure, it's basically making sure that you have an image that deploys their application. You deploy a new version of the application, and you've changed operating systems. Boohoo! Let's go.
Yeah, and actually I think one of the main selling points for Red Hat-based distros, I think at least in the non-enterprise level and the usual hosting, web servers, stuff like that, is that cPanel, which is the most popular product, run only on Red Hat-based systems. So CentOS was wildly used for that. And yesterday I read the notice in cPanel's website that, okay, you can do whatever you want with your CentOS, like stream development. You already had a development distro, like you're going to have another one. It's like slightly more stable, but not like... Yeah, so they just published, we plan until the end of 2029, which is where the CentOS end of life is actually announced, to support Ubuntu. So shot yourself in the foot. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Really good analysis of the situation. We have unfortunately reached 9:30 for me, 10:30 for you guys, so it is time to wrap up. Before we wrap up, I want to say that this weekend is FOSDEM, which is an open source conference in Belgium, one of my favorite conferences in the world to go to, because you can drink beer while looking at talks. But this year, unfortunately, it's virtual, so you have to drink beer at home while looking at talks. But it's happening this weekend. I'm co-organizing the Infra Management Dev Room. Take a look at fosdem.org, where you can find the whole schedule. You can follow it from the convenience of your own home. Hundreds of topics, really interesting stuff for almost every level of engineering out there. And with that, all I want to say is we are hiring. If you like these guys, they can be your coworkers. So check our website and come and join us.
If you want to work with these two, who I appreciate immensely, their efforts, their expertise, their attention to the customer needs, I love you guys, and the whole managed services team is a great place to work.
Now I'm blushing.
Nice. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Bozhidar. Thanks, Stanislav, and see you next week.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.